There was a bit of news that broke yesterday that I thought broke too quietly, and I don't know how common knowledge this is. But do you realize how close we are, Stugotz, to no longer having a chain link measurement in football next year?
I had no idea. What are you talking about?
We're this close, Dano.
Yes, we are a chain link away from having the technology. They're going to test it all preseason, and if it works, they're still going to have the chain gang of old guys out there measuring it in the most antiquated way possible as backup. In the case of an emergency, a power outage during the Super Bowl.
Just keeping an eye on it. That's what they're doing.
Right.
Can't they be in the tunnel in case we need them? Like, them doing it the whole game, never using it, is odd.
Just go to the bullpen?
Like, keep them in like a room, and if the technology breaks, then we do the old, like, all right, come on out. Like, them doing it the entire season and us never using it is sad.
Here's the flaw in your particular plan.
Bad for 'em.
Yes, understood. They're going to feel pretty useless until that one moment when the technology breaks down in a critical spot and they're in a janitor's closet because you didn't have them as the backup on the field.
Then we have replay.
And then we'll have 3 days of coverage because an NFL football game got decided in the dumbest way possible.
How would the people that are physically measuring it in a tunnel work if they're not physically measuring anything?
Well, he's saying don't use them until they're actually needed.
Right.
See, this is the problem with his theory, right? You don't realize, and I don't realize how dependent we are on technology until you lose that technology. The last couple of days I've been late getting in here because my garage door doesn't work. And it just neutralizes my entire day. I can't get out anymore.
You can't push it open.
And no, that's right. And so I'm like, do I Uber? But then I don't have my car when I get out of work. And so you don't know how much you rely on the technology until you've lost it. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do you understand how much you rely on technology until you've lost it?
But you want these guys to feel special. You do. And to have them out on the field and not use them to, for what they're hired to do, that doesn't make them feel special. You know what makes them feel special? When everything goes out and you need them and they're sitting in a closet in the tunnel and you call them out, they get a standing ovation. That's how you feel special. It's why guys are in the bullpen.
Strawman. Who wants the chain link gang to feel special?
I do. I feel bad for them.
Sounds like you're trying to cost some hardworking American jobs in an election year, which is a bad move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to?
Not you, the NFL.
Sounds like no one's watching the UFL. That's what it sounds like
Correct.
to me.
Yes.
What other jobs in our society are just backups for technology? Like, are there people that are going to work every day right now, and it's like, I'm only here if technology breaks down?
Every time I walk into a Walgreens and everyone's scanning their way out, but there's one human being standing there who used to be the centerpiece of everything that they were doing, but is now there just to check that you're not stealing things and to see if someone like me walks in and can't handle your technology and is just looking for an
I got you, old man. Here you go. Just click this, click that, scan your card here. Keep it moving.
I was actually just told in my ear that we have multiple people on staff that are just here in case technology breaks down.
Huh.
We should do a quiz of whether you know their names or not. We should bring all of them
Please
in.
don't.
One after another. We have many people here for the insurance of if the whole thing falls to the ground, can Robert lift it back up?
Which one's Robert?
Let me write that down. Robert.
We've got 4 or 5 people here as emergency backups. I'd like to
I'm guessing Muhammad just playing the odds.
Where's GQ?
I haven't seen him in a week.
Oh.
GQ is not his real name. I believe it's what you're calling him because you don't know his real name.
No, there's a Danny there. Danny GQ.
Danny GQ.
Too many Dannys around here.
Got that one.
So many Dannys. I need to address again Stugotz's contention that the chain link gang needs to feel special.
They're getting paid to not work. What am I talking about?
You see that in the mirror sometimes, don't you?
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the wake up, let out the sheets. You came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. Right guys, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I've got what I feel like are two pretty good stats of the day, Stugotz. I will give you both of them, and you tell me which one you like better. Hit it.
Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day.
So, Stugotz, LaDainian Tomlinson, this is from ML Football, has the same amount of career touchdown passes as Johnny Manziel. That's one stat of the day.
Right, Johnny Football.
The other one from last night that I believe to be the better stat of the day, Jaylen Brown has never hit that shot before. That a game-tying shot or game-winning shot, 10 seconds or less, one of those clutch moments where everyone in the league shoots 18% and Michael Jordan gets credit for shooting like 24% or keep taking the shot. That shot that Jaylen Brown made in that situation, he has never made in a professional game. And that game last night was super interesting for a lot of reasons because there are a few things in that game that are a little bit repeatable for the Pacers.
The Pacers let one get away. I like that stat, but I actually like that you're asking me. I like the first stat better. A running back throwing for more touchdown passes than a quarterback.
Same amount.
Yeah,
same amount. Seven
Right.
is the total for both of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Derrick Henry might have more.
He might.
I'm on that.
I actually looked that up for us. Running back with the most career touchdown passes.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised when you said it because that was a huge part of LT's arsenal. Was once he got down the goal line, he would just float one up there to a receiver.
Were you surprised by Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, that was a cacasso, though. Man, come on. That's a once-in-a-lifetime shot. This is a rare game where both teams blew it.
Derrick Henry has 4 passing touchdowns.
Put it on the poll, please.
In the postseason, too? That includes postseason?
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Was that a game that both teams deserved to lose last night? I've got some stats here, Stugotz, that I think people will find interesting. Because if you have the ball and are up 3 with 10 seconds left, you haven't lost a playoff game like that in a century. In this century, I should say, not a century, in this century. The last time it happened was 97, 98. But just so that you understand the game the Pacers played last night, 22 turnovers is the second most they've had all season. The Celtics have never scored this season that many points off of turnovers. It was a remarkably sloppy game. The way the Pacers play, points per possession, that would have ranked 67th of the 96 games they played this year, Stugotz. When they play that poorly against everyone, not just the Celtics, they're 3-27 this year. That was a shit game the Pacers put together, even though their pace is real good. And the Celtics aren't the same without Porzingis. They're more like the Pacers than they'd like to be when they have to play Al Horford that number of minutes. They're small like that. That team really needs Porzingis. And Carlisle is saying after the game, I'd be curious what's going to happen with this. This one's on me. It's just on me. I didn't foul at the end. I didn't call timeout and get the ball properly inbounded, or at least inbounded on the other side of the court.
The big mistake, and he pointed it out after the game, was not taking that timeout when they couldn't inbound the ball. All they had to do was inbound the ball, and the game's over. That's it. It's a wrap. I mean, and I love a coach coming out and saying, hey, that's on me. I do. I love when they do that.
They're also replaying it right now on ESPN, that last inbounds pass, and the play itself is insane. You have 5 people going to the wrong side of the court, going back court essentially, when all you got to do is throw it in the front court and make something happen over there. The last 11 seconds of the game is insane.
Mike, why are you pointing a thumb over there?
My guy knows ball. Yeah, I was saying
Backcourt action's insane with 12 seconds
but I was
left.
like,
Real hoopers.
front court, or subbing TJ McConnell. Maybe do that.
He seems like he'd be hard to guard in that circumstance.
I'm not going to do this to the Celtics, though. I'm just not going to do it, okay? Because we criticize them the entire season. Jason Tatum is soft late in games. Jason Tatum in that overtime was great.
Oh, get outta
Jaylen
here.
Brown late in that game
get outta
was
here.
great. Tatum
Get
had
outta
8
here.
points in overtime.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. That dude disappeared
He hit
in
the
crunch
shots.
time. And yes, he got the dagger when they slacked off of him like his name was Wooga Poplar, and he dribbled into a contest. He missed a point-blank bunny. He had a pick-6 turnover. That guy was begging out of that situation. The fact that he has 10 points in that overtime is miraculous. Where are the points? I saw a 3, and he got lucky with a terrible turnover that was a dunk, a ready-made dunk that he hit from the line. The dude got bailed out by Rick Carlisle and Jaylen Brown. All the things that we said about Jason Tatum, all the doubts that we have about his disappearing act in crunch time, those are still here. In fact, I got more of them.
Only guy in double-digit free throws for the entire game.
So
Nobody else had
out of
double-digit
here
free
with
throws.
box score. That is like the most fraudulent 10 points I've ever seen. That dude disappeared again.
So we're going to do this.
That was a bad
Well,
turnover in regulation.
Hold on. Let me just stop Mike for a second, okay? Because he's coming in.
He got locked down by Nesmith. Once Nesmith got fouled out, then the game changed. It was
Neesmith.
Is
That's
it?
how much he doesn't even know his name.
It's
Mike,
Naismith. Yeah,
Mike.
he invented basketball.
Please look up for me
The doctor.
the last time somebody scored 10 points in an overtime playoff
know.
game.
I've
Okay,
seen
but
all
you-
the
no, but
aggregation.
Mike,
I also was
Mike,
watching the game.
but
The
Mike,
dude disappeared.
did you watch the game?
Yes, I
Mike,
did.
Mike,
Sports radio.
Mike, you can't say someone disappeared when I can counter with the stat of he's got more overtime points in a playoff game since
Dan Le
blank.
Batard, look in my eyes. Watch me. That dude
Did
was a
you
coward.
watch the
That
game?
dude was a coward. Don't tell me the aggregated 10 points and let that be the headline. That dude disappeared. He was chicken shit personified on that court. Get out of here. He got lucky because Jaylen Brown hit un cagazo of all time,
is true.
and Rick Carlisle just blew that game. That dude was a chicken shit.
All right.
He had 10
Don't
of
hit
his
me
6
with box score
I'm not going to
Dan.
hit you. I'm going to hit you with
Penalty
the penalty
box.
box.
Box
Get out of
score,
here.
Dan.
Get out of here.
I'm not even
Out
supposed
of
to be here today.
Get
You
out of
pulled
here.
Paul Pierce.
Get out of here.
Good. I'm gone the entire show. Paul Pierce is on our guest list today. I'm out.
Get
See
out
ya.
of here. Good God, man.
crazy.
You can't.
He scored
accuse
10 of the 60.
No,
Look,
just a bunch of guys woke up, decided to Google the box score. Get the fuck out of here. That was terrible.
too many men on the ice. Get him out of here immediately. Enough of that. Nobody needs that this early in the morning.
Basketball's played on wood.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, too many men.
A minor?
It should have been a major asshole. Like, it's too much for that in the morning, man.
Final 9 minutes and 44 seconds of regulation. 0 field goals. 0 for 4. 2 brick threes. A potential game-tying 3 with under a minute left.
The penalty box isn't in here. Maybe you got lost on the way to
Couple
the
rooms
penalty
down.
box.
Keep Googling that.
I don't disagree with me. All right, take overtime away. He was bad down the stretch of regulation.
Agreed.
Yes, he made up for it a little bit, but I'm with Mike on there is something off with this
Whoa.
dude late in games.
We can't criticize how he plays late in games, and then he plays well late in the game, and we're still going to criticize
Stugotz,
him.
no, this is what I am going to do.
I mean, we can,
I'm
but-
going to urge the audience to check out what Tom Haberstroh has written about the empirical failures of Jason Tatum late in games this season. It's not something you're imagining. Your eyes are not lying to you. It's something that can be statistically backed. But you're not allowed to tell me that someone disappeared in an overtime playoff game when they scored more points in an overtime playoff game than since blank. Tony, one of our producers, look up for me what the name is on who the last time someone scored, because there haven't been playoff games this season that have had overtimes in them. We haven't had any of them.
I have it. Jason Tatum's 10 points in overtime, the most for any player in a playoff game since Damian Lillard in 2021. In the last decade, it is tied for the third most points in an overtime. Steph Curry had 17 points. Dame Lillard had 12 points. And then there's 3 guys who have had 10 in the last decade.
So all I'm objecting to is the appraisal of disappeared. And the reason I'm stopping, Mike, is he's coming in with, I hate the Celtics, and Tatum needs as much pressure on him as LeBron had in 2010. So he's finding all the ways he can to rip that team even when it wins.
But Tatum feels the pressure. Like, he knows they have an easy path. They're an overwhelming team. They've been the best team in the NBA the entire season. They're the best team when healthy. Like, he feels that pressure, don't you think?
They are the best team when healthy, but Stugotz, they're not that much different than what the Pacers are when Porzingis is out. I will say that the Celtics still have, if I said to the audience, who do you want, Halliburton or Siakam or Brown and Tatum, I think most of the audience is going to take Brown and Tatum. And if we keep going to Turner and everyone else, you're going to keep taking Celtics. But Porzingis unlocks some things for them.
Sure.
That you'll remember when they were very good on defense and had Robert Williams, he didn't stretch floor on offense. And while he blocked shots, Porzingis does both things where he stretches floor on offense, takes threes from Foreverland, and also rim protects, and they miss him. And they aren't they are a historically special team when he's out there, Stugotz. I will tell you a couple of things that they do historically well. Look at what the Pacers did with free throws. That's going to repeat itself. The Celtics do not foul. They do not give you free throws. You want to win a game with free throws? It's going to be very hard against the Celtics. I think in the history of the sport, very few teams defended like that without fouling.
They had 10 last night.
The Pacers had 10. What was the discrepancy? Like something like 30 to 10, 35 to 10 in a free throw?
30 to 10.
Yeah, 30 to 10.
Okay, so you've got that. The other thing, though, that should concern the Celtics, Stugotz, because the way that you beat them is that you prevent them from making their threes. Indiana defends the three very well. They play at that pace, and they defend so do the Celtics. The Celtics also defend the three well, but there are some things that made themselves present in that game that I believe will be repeatable, even though I don't think usually this stuff carries over from one game to the other.
Their other issue, too, is, Dan, they have no bigs, right? Without Porzingis, their big is Cornette. Their big is Al Horford.
They have Big Al.
But that's it. He's not a rim protector. He's a guy that plays in the perimeter.
He had 3 blocks last night, Tom.
Sure, of course. Right. One of them, I think, was from behind. But the point being, they don't have bigs to contest against Siakam, against Miles Turner. And if you kind of move that and extrapolate it down the line, if they see Minnesota in the finals, Minnesota's got 3 bigs that can play against anybody.
Without Porzingis, they would not be the favorite to win
against Minnesota.
In this series, they will be the favorite. But after watching last night's game, Stugotz, and seeing what they are without Porzingis, I do believe that this is a difficult matchup for them that is more difficult than what the Knicks would have been in the state that the Knicks were going in there.
Last night reminded me of the Knicks Game 3 at Indiana, where they let that one get away, and the Knicks ended up losing the series. The Pacers they didn't play such a great game. They had that game. They should have won that game. They let it get away, Dan. So for me, next game, like I feel like, because I love the psychology of sports, the Celtics will be a much better, much more relaxed team, and the Pacers have to live with, man, we were 6 seconds away from stealing game 1 on the road. We didn't get it done, and I expect the Celtics are going to blow them out.
Stugotz,
35 points.
They did not, the Pacers did not deserve to win that game. They did not play. That was one of the worst games the Pacers have played this season with the basketball.
Yeah.
So they had a chance to win it at the end, but it was confusing to me with 10 free throws and 22 turnovers how they had a chance to win it at the end. And I think it's at least in part because the Celtics aren't the same kind of special unless you give them complete health. That bench looks awfully thin in the condition that it's in.
Doing a lot with Porzingis here, man. I mean,
Stugotz, he unlocked a bunch of different stuff for them. I understand why the name Porzingis wouldn't do anything for you, but offensively, there's no disputing what it is that he unlocked for them.
3 players off the bench for the Celtics: Sam Hauser, Luke Cornette, Peyton Pritchard.
It's bad.
That's it.
It's a bad.
Those are the only bench guys that got minutes.
It's a bad bench. We have talked before about how important Derek White has become. He has become a wildly improved basketball player that I'm guessing everyone listening to this, what are you laughing about?
Just Mike.
would take, if you're drafting all the players in this series, that's the one we're taking 5th, correct? Or are you taking him 4th? Are you taking him ahead of Siakam? Like, if we're drafting all of the players in this series, how high is Derek White going up? If you had to select somebody, it is hotter in here than it was yesterday when we knocked out a couple of people with the air conditioning
Because
not
you're
working.
working those servers overtime trying to Google how he got to 10 points.
Right. Are you taking Derek White over Jason Tatum, Mike?
I think Derek White's going to end up being like MVP of this series for him. And if you think it's hot in that studio, imagine how hot the breath of Jason Tatum was on Derek White's neck as he was begging, hoping, and praying, please let me hand the ball off to you and you make something happen here. They doubled him late. The reason why he had that dagger 3 was they doubled Derek White.
The thing that I have to guard against with you is that your hatred for this team and this franchise is so high that I believe that the passion that you just expressed for basketball this season is all fueled by rage hate.
I didn't think I'd enjoy it that much without the Heat playing, but I did enjoy it. And to the credit of basketball, the last 3 playoff games have been great. I think a lot of you guys, especially, and I'm speaking directly to the cast members on this show, just because I'm complaining about something doesn't mean things can't turn around. And I can then pivot. I'm not married to the idea that this sport is broken beyond repair. I like to see good games. And I'm not married to the take that Jason Tatum is going to disappear forevermore. I would just like to see it. I caught a lot of hell for asking to see it from Steph Curry. Saw it. Thank you. Very good then. MVP, best player on the court. Legendary performance.
Move on with your day.
I move on with my day.
Yeah.
Broken beyond repair is something you have to be married to because there's no repairing it. It's beyond repair.
Well, I think the game can be repaired easily by.
Then it's not broken beyond repair.
Yeah, well,
point,
like I said, that was not my take. But it just gets assigned to me. And when Tatum does something, because this is a numbers game, and Lord knows that dude's played plenty of playoff games, eventually he'll ascend. But I still have questions about the guy. I want to see it. I don't want to see Derek White be the best player. I want to see Jaylen Brown bailing his ass out. I want to see Jason Tatum fulfill the prophecy and be the guy the commercials are telling me he is.
I think I found something we can all agree on. That was the least impressive 10-point overtime performance we've ever seen.
It was ridiculous.
Who's with me?
I just kept getting hit with 10 points. And I'm the guy that doesn't watch basketball. The dude disappeared for damn near 20 minutes. Get out of here.
You saw the others, Chris? I mean...
Let's. We need to turn down the temperature on some of what it is that is happening.
Well, it's just I got hit with box score Sue and box score Dan.
I watched the game.
He had 10 points. Did you notice?
Out again. Out
3
again.
of them.
Out again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Out.
Did I needle you, Dan Le Batard,
Get
by
outta
the box
here.
score?
No, it's
13 points.
Mike, it's
13
obnoxious.
minutes, scoreless.
Out. It's obnoxious.
Oh, yeah, let's get Sam Morrell on. Let's be more obnoxious then.
Get out
Are
of
we
here.
just pivoting to the Celtics now?
Out. Didn't you threaten to leave for the whole show? Get out.
Threatening to leave for Paul Pierce. I don't know why he keeps getting booked. He's not a stand-up comedian.
Out. I don't like the did you watch the game and nothing else after it. Out, Mike.
Literally provided. Good. Literally provided. For those that are just listening to our show,
He's going to drag you out.
This.
I hope he drags you
Let's
out.
talk about
He's going to drag you out.
First field goal was in OT.
He's dragging you out.
First field, 13 minutes and 32 seconds without a field goal.
He's dragging you out.
First 2 points came on a fast break because he got fouled. The dude lived on the line.
All right.
You lived on the line.
Keep going.
He was a chicken shit.
Yep, keep going. Here's another mic for you. Here, hold on. Here you go. Say something.
Wow, to applause out there.
Get Miro on.
Get Miro on is what he said.
He's doing it irrationally, but I don't disagree with what he's saying
will you
about
knock
Jason
it off?
Tatum. I'm serious.
What are you talking about? Listen, criticize him when he actually doesn't do something. But last night he did something, so give him credit.
He was bad late in that fourth. Like he was
wa-
bailed out by if Brown.
The Celtics were bad. They were bad. They should have lost the game at
The
home.
Pacers were terrible in the last 2 minutes.
Nobody
of the game.
wanted to win that game. late in the
Everyone
game.
was bad.
Halliburton dribbled the ball off of his knee. When the game was over,
Yes.
with 11 seconds left, Halliburton dribbled with his left hand off his knee, out of bounds, basically.
All right, but Chris, you can't agree with the Tatum take.
I was not impressed with him, even
Chris,
in overtime.
Chris.
I'm with Mike. Outside of that 3, like, it wasn't like he just dominated.
Right, but the Pacers scored 11 points in overtime. Tatum scored 10.
He bailed himself out by getting 10 points. I can't argue with the 10 points, but I'm just gonna say I'm not leaving that game thinking, oh, this is the best player in the NBA.
Are you okay?
Again, I'm very warm and
Sweating.
And I think that there are many exit ramps between scoring 10 points in overtime and the accusation of someone disappearing, because all the other players who didn't disappear didn't score that many points in overtime. And so I'm just asking for some sort of degrees on how we talk about this. But when your starting point is the moment the playoffs started and the Heat lost the game, Mike Ryan traded Bam Adebayo again. The Celtics came very close to giving Mike Ryan the best feeling he's had in basketball this entire season, which is losing that game at home. They denied him it, and now this is what you get today. And he's not wrong that Tatum has to show us something as the guy who wins, the reason that team wins.
But last night he showed you something.
He was not the reason, Stu, even with the 10 points.
I get it, guys, but we criticize him particularly at the end of games. And at the end of last night's game, he scored 10 points.
Stugotz,
that's all I'm saying.
But the point...
How am I being the rational one?
The point that he's making is, if not for Jaylen Brown bailing his ass out,
I get it,
with a very lucky shot, today's conversation would have totally been about what happened to Jason Tatum at the end of that game. He was given more game. This reminds me of all the stuff that Derek Jeter did in the postseason because he was in the postseason so often. Thank you, Billy, for a contribution that's fundamentally useless.
Thank you, Billy.
Did
a lot of winning.
Did the Celtics win or did the Pacers lose?
Oh, good question.
Derek Jeter played an entire regular season 162 games in the postseason. So he was not afraid of postseason basketball. Jason Tatum is going to get so many shots to win basketball games that he's going to score 10 points in an occasional overtime.
It seems like you're agreeing with Mike.
I'm just bringing him slightly closer to the middle. It doesn't have to be the absolute of he either disappeared or he's Michael Jordan. Can we stop at some exit ramps between those two things?
I'm being rational, Dan. I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan because no one is Michael Jordan, and certainly not Anthony Edwards. What a joke. But anyway, what I'm saying is, let's criticize him after a loss where he doesn't do anything. It was a strike.
I have an exit ramp we can take. Let's get off here. Let's get off at this.
Are we
this
just
exit.
not going to talk Panthers today?
Final 10 minutes of regulation, 0 points for Jason Tatum.
That's correct.
Okay,
he got his ass bailed out, but then
final 5 minutes he had 10.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But if not for Jaylen Brown hitting a shot he's never hit before, we would be talking. That was the game last night we'd be talking about. And Stugotz, you particularly would be in here crushing Jason Tatum, who you have said is Kevin Durant.
Yeah, well, he was last night. Better.
No. All right, you go sit with Mike.
Well, come on.
You go sit with Mike.
Oh,
he was not better than what? He was the
10 points.
Okay.
He's holding up a mirror now. I think he's saying that you're saying what he's saying. I think this is at Dan, the mirror he's holding up.
I'm not saying that Jason Tatum disappeared. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is if Mike looks in that mirror, what you'll see is a hater. Write hater on that mirror. Write the word hater on it, because what you will see is it is clear that the Celtics fans must love listening to what the last 24 minutes of this have been. The voice of the Heat wailing and gnashing and crying about the Celtics winning a game that way last night.
This for sure is Mike. Late in that fourth quarter, he's like, I know my take for tomorrow. This is great. Yeah. And then the game kind of changed, and he's just like, you know what? I'm sticking with it.
Billy and Stugotz want to debut a new segment right now, the JJ Watt of the day. So do you have any imaging here for our new segment?
Ladies and gentlemen, the JJ Watt of the day.
Billy, what is this segment? Who's the JJ Watt of the day?
Well, the JJ Watt of the day today is Paul Skeens, Dan.
The Pittsburgh Pirates mustache, 100 miles
That
an
guy,
hour.
yeah.
Everyone is very excited about his debut. He's clearly a power arm who's going to be dominant if pitching doesn't wreck his arm the way it does everybody's.
Which it will, yeah. Spoiler alert. His arm's going to fall off, but that's okay.
Right.
Anyways, Paul Skeens.
Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah. Enjoy these 3 starts because his arm may fall off of his body.
I think I saw the fastest 10 pitches in the MLB this year. He has 9 of them.
Yeah, 9 of 10 of the fast. No, by a starting pitcher.
Have you guys ever...
Because starting pitchers know I shouldn't throw 103 every pitch.
Who has the other pitch?
Soriano from the Yankees.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Look at that. Right off the top of your head.
Come
Nice.
on. It's not here. Look. I got the box scores.
Have you guys ever seen the horrifying video of Dave Dravecky, his arm breaking during a
Ooh,
pitch?
it's the worst.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's terrible. Skeens, what you're alleging is if you keep throwing that hard, one day a batter's going to swing at your arm. Like your arm is going to go up there at about 84 miles an hour.
If the ball stays in your arm when your arm flies off and you hit the ball, is it in play?
Huh.
That is a great question.
It is. But none of this has to do with why he is the JJ Watt of the day.
We'll get to that
Yes,
in a
okay.
second. But if I toss a ball that is stuck in my glove to the first baseman, that is an out. That has happened before in the sport,
It has.
where the ball gets lodged in the glove of the pitcher, and the pitcher just tosses the entire glove to the first baseman. What you're saying is ground ball to short. It's got Skeens 2-2 pitch, ground ball to short. It's got Skeens' arm on it, his dislodged arm. The throw over to first. And now the first baseman is catching Skeens' arm with the ball in it.
It's an out. Yeah, it's an out.
All right, how about this scenario? Skeens' arm is stuck on the ball. You hit the ball, get a hold of it. The arm bounces on the warning track and the ball goes over, but the ball never hits the ground. Is that a home run or a ground rule double?
Gotta go ground rule double
No,
there
that's
because
The
a
arms,
ball
yeah.
never hits the
arms
ground.
part of the ball, though, guys.
No, it's not.
Hands part of the ball.
No, not in
Hands
baseball.
part of the ball.
That
No.
is wrong sport. That is a home run. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. If the pitcher's arm falls off holding the ball and then is hit to the warning
The
track,
batter gets a hold of it. It's important to phrase it that way.
Right.
Like where the shoulder hits the warning track, so the ball is as far from the wall as you can, and then it goes over.
You want him? You want all this in there?
Isn't that an out immediately?
Why would it be an
it's
out?
an
Because if a player catches a baseball that's hit straight up the middle to the pitcher, we've seen that a pitcher barehanded, that's an out. All they have to do is catch it. So the second the batter makes contact with the ball with the arm still holding onto it,
No,
But the
think-
ball
might be
never
an out.
loses. He never loses contact with the
hand,
ball.
But
though.
the hand is holding onto the ball. It's like essentially you're tagged.
No, I think no, because if the arm, if you go
If
to
you hit one up the
rob a
middle.
home run,
Yeah.
and somehow the person's arm is severed on the wall, and the ball goes into this is a different person who's
Okay,
lost an
oh,
arm.
This is
Oh,
the
wow.
This
outfielder.
person this is the outfielder catches a ball. Their arm hits the wall, is severed, and the arm goes over the wall with the ball. I believe that would be a home run. So I think someone would have to catch Paul's arm for it to be an out.
What if the arm is in play but the ball's out of play?
But
Could
that's like-
happen.
but it's like catching a foul ball.
It could.
I think you're
Yeah.
out the second you make
Right.
contact.
No.
I don't think any of what we're presently
Should we ask Tim
discussing
Kirkchin?
can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
let's
ahead.
text him.
Someone.
I could text him, but I don't even know what to text him.
In that first scenario where the shortstop gets the ground ball with the guy's arm attached to the ball, that's a heck of a throw. I mean, right?
How do you throw? You
Do you rip the
throw
ball
an
out of his
arm.
hand?
I mean,
No, you got to throw the arm like an
throw the
axe.
whole
Yeah,
arm?
you
Like
gotta-
you know, like
yeah.
the axe
Yes.
bars. You go like that. I would think you throw the arm like
That
over
is-
your head, and then you hope that somehow the first baseman gets the ball. That's the thing about axe
Yeah.
throwing that I don't get is how does the axe head normally find that wall and it's not like the handle? Because most of the time the axe head finds it somehow.
I think it's gravity.
Really?
Yeah, I think it has something to
Sometimes
do
they
with
I
bounce
think
back.
gravity's up down, not front back.
If this ever happens, everyone's going to be horrified at the severed arm.
They'll be distracted. Exactly right.
But I will be locked into that
Finish the
mound
play.
meeting where the umpires like gather to figure out what's what. Like,
Could it
what's
be a
the-
balk?
I think this is a balk.
That's
If
a
it
good
never,
question.
The ball never leaves
If
his
it
hand.
never leaves the guy's
Right.
hand, it's
Arm
100%
comes
a balk.
off, right.
But if the ball's in play, then does it become the decision of the offensive team?
Huh.
What I will tell you guys when you ruin this by calling it a balk is that just like Travis Kelce had that lateral in the game that was disallowed because of Kadarius Toney lining up offsides and us blaming the referee for ruining something. If the umpires called a balk in this situation and denied us the following conversation about whether it's an out, the axe throw, the home run, is it a ground rule double? If it's a balk, if it's just a balk, that would be really disappointing.
But if the bases are empty, then it can't be a balk.
That's true.
I
can only have a balk with a runner on.
Can you balk with
I think it becomes a ball. I think a ball.
No, that's ball. B-A-L-L.
Yeah, there's
different.
a K.
Balk
I
is a
believe that if a pitcher.
But a K is a strike.
Yeah, that's a strikeout. And if it's a backwards K, then it's strikeout looking.
Thank you.
Which is confusing.
We need to text him.
Yeah.
What if you hit it right back
then
to the pitcher?
Then you get 3 strikeouts, and everyone's like, what do we do?
And the pitcher catches his own arm.
Well, that's definitely an out. But it might have been
you
an
don't
out.
like the optics of the 3 strikeouts.
We've got a lot of conversations going on at once. I'd like to rein it in. We haven't gotten to the J.J. Watt of the day just yet. I believe you can have a balk without runners on base. Do I have this wrong? It's not a traditional balk, but I thought that there are certain things a pitcher could do that would result in a batter getting 1 ball in his favor because with nobody on base, the pitcher had done something.
I don't know. Nestor Cortez puts on an entire dance performance when no one's on base.
Mm-hmm.
If no runners are on base and the pitcher commits an otherwise balkable action, there is generally no penalty.
Okay.
Generally,
I'm seeing the opposite of that. I'm seeing that if there's a balk with no runners on, that a ball is issued.
So we got to the bottom of this.
All right. Why is
But
Steve,
what if the pitcher catches his own arm?
We'll get back to that. Stugotz.
Then that's an out.
Okay.
Unless the ball hits the ground. If the ball's touching the ground when he catches his arm, then the ball hits the ground.
AI is saying that you can't balk with no runners on base.
Iverson said that?
Yeah, but it's not a balk because if you do something illegal with no runners on base, they issue a ball.
It's a ball,
it wouldn't
not a
be
balk.
a balk, but it is a balk. It's just the way they issue the penalty, it's with a ball.
But Allen Iverson said no.
If the pitcher drops the ball, but no one's on base, it is ignored with no penalty. So I think the same rule applies that if the ball drops while an arm is attached to it.
I don't know what the ruling is on that. We will check with Tim Kirkshin. We will also, at some point this segment, I'm assuming, find out why he's the J.J. Watt of the day. Even though Hail to the Chief has now stopped playing, we've run out of the music.
It's a short bed, that's why.
There it is.
But I would like to just explore
You want to
again
get to the J.J. Watt of the day?
in a second.
Okay. Good tease.
Getting there, trying to get there. But if you're confused about anything that's happened so far, I will clarify it for you. A ball, if you add a K to the end of it, becomes a balk.
But you take away an L.
But the K is a strikeout,
Correct,
and
yes.
you have to take away an L, and all of this is very confusing. But if a human arm falls off of the pitcher and is hit to the warning track and then lands on the warning track, I believe that it is immediately an out just because an arm of a defender has the ball in its hand and has caught it before it has hit the ground and therefore is an out.
I don't think so.
I think handing the ball still applies, though. I know it's a different sport, but you can't say that it's a hit, right, without the ball dislodging from the severed arm from the hand, right? In this scenario, do we have the ligaments and muscles so tight around the ball that you can't get the ball out of it?
The ball needs to come free.
Okay, hold on a second. Now, if the arm is still attached and somehow instead of the bat making contact with the ball, it makes contact with the back of the hand because of the way that it's spun.
Right.
If a bat hits a catcher's hand, that's catcher's interference. So would it be pitcher's interference?
I just love our work environment. Like Mike just stepped out making a serious dictation of a text where he's just like, Tim, if an arm is severed and the ball is still in the, it's just like as he's trailing away from me, just a ridiculous sentence.
We need
Someone had to
closure.
do it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Why is he the J.J. Watt of the day?
Dan, thanks for asking. So, according to ML Football on X, Pirates phenom pitcher Paul Skeens plans to go serve in the U.S. military once he's done with his baseball career, according to his former coach, Mike Kozlowski. Quote, it's a big deal for Paul to be able to serve our country.
Such a big deal, Dan. If it's a big deal, do it now and stop pitching. But such a big deal to Paul that he transferred away from the military. He left the Air Force Academy to pursue a baseball career. How about that? That is J.J. Watt. But Those are the type of things you say when you leave the military to play Major League Baseball. You tell him one day, I will get back to the military. He's never going back to the military. I assure you, he has no plans. And I'm not certain the military will want him at the age of 40, but he has no plans of going back to the military.
Well, if it's missing, though, then
yes,
do they take him?
Right.
Is he eligible to serve?
You think once he's pitched 15 years in the majors, if he makes it that long, he's amassed, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, $100 million, whatever he makes over that time frame.
More than that.
You think the first thing he's going to do is go back and fly a fighter jet? Like, what's the matter with you?
Ted Williams did miss the prime of his career.
Thank you for mentioning. True American.
Flying a fighter jet.
Was that by choice?
Of course.
No.
I don't think
he
so.
had to.
No, I believe
was
that was drafted, yes. I also want to exonerate Skeens here. You've called him the J.J. Watt of the day, even though this is a former coach being quoted. He's not saying anything. J.J. Watt would say that wrapped in the American flag with a bald eagle on his shoulder while driving a tank he made out of American pies.
That's fair.
Apple pies and cherry pies.
Totally fair.
I believe this is also the coach at the Air Force, so this could be like the ex that's like, yeah, we'll get back to you.
No, I just don't think it's fair to take him out as a J.J. Watt of the day when he hasn't said anything. All he's done is throw the hardest
You
pitches.
let your coach leak that out. You want
What
that
do you
out
mean,
there.
leak it out?
No,
Right.
that's you.
Coach, you say it.
Test
Yeah.
the waters.
Right.
Exactly right.
Coach, you say it. Just text me on the back end. Let's see what.
Getting criticized. I left the Air Force Academy. Everyone's crushing me.
Nobody's criticizing
Everyone
him for
is.
leaving the air. What are you talking
He felt the
about?
pressure to say it. I mean, why say it? I mean, I know he did say it, but he said it.
What are you doing?
You don't think he ever told that to his manager? You don't think there was a reason he told his manager that?
What are you doing?
J.J. Watt of the day.
I know, but he didn't say anything. All he did was throw 101 miles an hour. He's being quoted by someone who was in his past.
He didn't have to say it, Dan. I mean,
To anybody?
Yeah, he didn't have to say it.
When it's in your heart like that and your coach knows it, I mean, they have the opportunity to say it. It's in your heart.
Tony, go look up the years of his prime, what Ted Williams did around being a fighter pilot. Like, go look up the stats, the years he gave up to the war. forgive me for a second here as I try to get caught up on reading breaking news. Sports Business Journal is reporting that the NBA, this stinks, will formalize new deals with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon this week. NBC will air Basketball Night in America on Sunday nights after the NFL season, and this means that next season will be the last for TNT and Inside the NBA. So the best sports studio show there's ever been. Charles Barkley won another Emmy last night, as he always does as part of that show. It would appear that one of the most popular shows in the history of television, not just sports television, it's the most popular studio show in the history of sports television, but it ends, right, David? How does it get saved? It means next season will be the last, not this season. You'll get one more year of it. But is there anything that rescues that? David Sampson with us. Nothing Personal is the name of the podcast. He talks about other things other than business, but he is an authority on business stuff. Better coverage of business than I've seen anywhere in the sports media field, where it gets covered very poorly. Explain to me what all of this means, David, and if there's any avenue for saving the show that all of us seem to love.
Well, you love the people, not the show. And so the question is, do any of the new networks who have rights to show basketball games, will they try to hire Shaq, Kenny, and Charles? And will Ernie follow up on his promise not to leave Turner? And the thought is that he likes his life. He doesn't necessarily want to leave Atlanta. Could the show continue in Atlanta just for a different network? Is there studio space? Is any of that possible? The answer is yes. So I think it's way too early to say Inside the NBA is done, because it's like saying David Letterman changed when he went from NBC to CBS. It was still the David Letterman show. He just couldn't call it the top 10. But I believe that studio show could still exist.
All right. This is an interesting conversation to have. And Mike, you've worked a lot in the production of things. All the guys on that show say that Ernie Johnson is the most important chemical. Most people would not argue that. They'd argue that Charles Barkley is the most important, but those guys do need to love and respect enough someone to allow him to rein them in, and they do trust Ernie that way. Do you believe a host is that important to that show that if Ernie decides to stay at TNT, the other guys will do it with someone else?
100%. He's the straw that stirs the drink over there, because you have a lot of talents, primarily in Shaq and Charles. Even before Shaq arrived there, they kind of freelance. It's very improvisational, and that's what kind of is the draw to that show. And you need someone there to just keep the show moving along. But it's also a credit to the producers that helped build this show that's really like no other. But I will say that I think they're going to be fine. Like we were talking about, that Amazon certainly has disposable income, and they don't have shoulder programming. ESPN, they've tried for 20 years to replicate their formula. They haven't. NBC presently, I know that they have studio talents in their employ, but they don't necessarily have an NBA studio show yet. So you have three destinations that would love to microwave the studio leader, a perennial Emmy favorite when it comes to studio shows. I think if I'm Amazon, what I do is I ask Turner, what do you want for the Atlanta studio space? We bring everybody back. Basically, Turner is now Amazon, and you just wipe your hands of it. Everybody's happy.
Am I not the only one that thinks that Ernie is just playing the negotiating game? Everyone, because he's so fundamentally decent, everyone's just taking him at his word. I think he's just playing the game here.
I think Ernie's not leaving, and I think those guys won't leave Ernie.
I think Ernie will leave for the right number if he's with his guys. I think he's just playing the game right here.
Ernie Johnson came out and said, I'm not leaving
Turner. That's just that's negotiating.
Well,
I think because
I think you're forgetting a few things about Ernie, and don't forget in the past when Ernie was sick, there's just a lot of things that would indicate that I don't think that Ernie would need to play that card publicly. And as far as leverage goes, they've got all the leverage. They don't need to leak leverage. They don't need to play that leverage publicly. They know that the networks need them. Barkley knows it, Shaq knows it, Kenny knows it, and Ernie knows it. The people who generally use PR for leverage are those who don't have it.
But he doesn't need to leave Turner, per se. He says he doesn't want to leave Turner. Okay, You give him a carve-out for baseball and all the other Turner things that you're a part of. And when you say you don't want to leave Turner, what you're really saying is you don't want to leave your life. You don't want to leave the comforts of home. So you just make that the mecca for wherever Amazon or NBC or even ESPN decides to have their tentpole studio show. I think as attractive as the NBA deal is, now you have a whole world of possibilities with the standard when it comes to sports coverage in Turner, and I think they're looking at it as they're a free agent too.
And it may need to be renamed. It's possible. We don't know. Does Turner own Inside the NBA, quote unquote? In which case you just rename it. It really is based on the people. And in terms of replacing Ernie, you find another conductor, and it sounds like it's impossible. There'd be no way to replace him. But I assure you, everybody, we're all replaceable. And so I don't worry. They're not going to not have Barkley and Shaq and Kenny do a show because Ernie won't do it or they can't come to an agreement. Much like if Charles decides that he can't come to an agreement, the show will go on with somebody else.
If you think Adam Lefkoe's not going to jump at that opportunity, you're insane.
Right.
I should tell the audience and Chris Cody, though, that in my history in the media, there are very few people that I would believe more when they're saying something publicly than Ernie Johnson. It's not just that he's a decent person. It's that he prides himself on being fundamentally honest.
Just what his agent wants you to think.
Chris, he doesn't need the leverage. I mean,
but
Stu, you always need more leverage.
I'm just saying, if he ends up at another network,
Ernie does it, though.
But what you're saying is not an impossible thing for ESPN, NBC, or Amazon to overcome. They can hear that note and say, okay, what we'll present to you is your life stays as is. And guess what? Here's a little pay bump. So I think that there's a very logical path here for us to keep getting what we know now as Inside the NBA, which also, by the way, is probably up for negotiation too. You can license that name or what have you. If I were to bet on it, I think that you're just going to see it move places.
Which way would you bet, David?
That it will not be called Inside the NBA, but that those guys will find a home somewhere else, and it will be with a different conductor, not Ernie. That would be my bet. And I think that people are going to act all surprised today. And if you listen to the Sporting Class with Skipper and Pablo or any Nothing Personal, we've known that Turner wasn't going to re-up. We've known it for over a year when David Zaslav, forget sitting courtside in Knick hat, that's all a bunch of crap, no one cares. He cautioned the analysts on Wall Street, we don't need the NBA and we're not going to lose money because the shareholders really don't care about the NBA or Inside the NBA or Barkley or Ernie. They care about EPS. They care about shareholder value and appreciation. And he cautioned the street that Turner was not going to get the deal. So I'm not surprised at all.
David, would you do me a favor? I've been wanting to debut a new segment here where someone takes a victory lap for something they've said and then comes back to the microphone winded because they've physically taken an actual victory lap. The Sporting Class and the fact that you guys got it right on what it is would happen here. Do you want to take around your apartment a quick victory lap right now and come back and we will talk about this Jaden Rashada story?
He has to be winded?
Yeah, just take
he runs marathons.
Take a couple
I'm
of
not going to get winded doing that. I may get schwitzy, but not winded.
All right, can you just do something that represents the debut of the victory lap segment as I explain to the audience what's happening with Jaden Rashada, where he is suing Billy Napier for $13 million? That's not around your apartment.
He's running in place, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, actually, well, should we do it
It's
that way?
not a lap.
All right, should we
It's
do
a
it
marathon
that way?
runner.
It's an
That's
ISO
not
cam,
fair.
maybe with somebody else.
Either way, it's not going great.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
surprised he's wearing pants.
Mike, what do you make of this as the business of all of this changes? And I'm watching stuff that I don't understand where a quarterback is suing his head coach, which is hysterical.
Well, I think this is a very funny story. And if you want to get into the weeds about it, if you're Florida and you're presently unhappy with your head football coach, this may open the door for being able to fire him with cause. I think everything's on the table there. But I'm really happy that this lawsuit came to light just so we can finally publicly reveal the fact that Florida's collective paid John Ruiz to avoid litigation. Everyone thought that Miami left that Rashada pursuit with egg on their face. No one knew the details in that. No, they didn't lose any money. In fact, they made money on that proposition as a sort of front-end settlement, it would appear. I love the detail of Jaden Rashada, who is now presently a Georgia Bulldog. He was a Arizona State Sun Devil prior to him asking Kirby Smart for permission to sue Billy Napier, and Kirby Smart running a finger through that beautiful hair of his and going, yeah, you go right ahead. Throw that place in even more chaos. There's a lot of damning texts out there from people that ran their collective that this whole Rashada thing, and the reason why they attempted to overpay and immediately regretted it, was because Miami was in their heads. They like those freaks down in Miami, can't stand them. This was all. This was more about getting at Miami and stopping John Ruiz at the time, or the perception of John Ruiz, who, if you want to talk about victory laps, he's having himself one right now. That's fine. I think it was all about the boogeyman that was Miami, and it scared him into doing something stupid, and they immediately regretted it. And also, I feel bad for the kid. They broke a deal, it would appear. Allegedly, at least that's what the lawsuit alleges. So no winners here outside of Miami.
David, what can you tell me was interesting about the Jaden Rashada story?
142.
I asked you a question that wasn't about your heart rate or anything else.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, you ran a lap.
I normally would know my heart rate after a run, so I needed to take my heart rate. What was your question? I was not listening.
Jaden Rashada, any interesting thoughts about how things are changing in college sports?
I think I covered this on this morning's Nothing Personal, and I'd love to give you a taste of it. I believe the college athletes need to form a union. I believe this is the start of a union. It has to be regulated because this lawsuit is just the beginning of Pandora's box that's been opened. And the way you deal with it is with contracts. You deal with it within the four corners of an agreement, and you deal with it with people having to fulfill what they are saying they're going to do. And in college sports, the joke's over. They're all free agents. They're all employees, and they should all be unionized.
That's tough to organize, though. And if you look at what's happening right now in Washington, D.C., the powers that be are kind of taking advantage of this, trying to very quickly, under the cover of darkness, agree to a rev share agreement that they're going to quickly try to turn around and have codified by Congress and hold against these student athletes that don't necessarily have a say in this matter, David.
Yeah, true, but that's part of a settlement. That's part of a much bigger $2.7 billion settlement where like $1.5 billion is going to former players, which is way better than getting your Heisman back. It's totally shocking to me. It would be like Andre Dawson trying to get money because all these crappy players get more than he does, or a good basketball player bringing, John Konkak in and saying, give me money. So that is a major settlement, part of which is the going forward revenue sharing that you're talking about. And I'd get rid of all of it, and I would go to straight free agency in college.
Samson, stay there. Tony, go ahead and look up how musty the John Konkak reference is. John Konkak, I believe, got fewer than $5 million.
I smiled, though.
It might have been fewer than $10 million. We're going to come back with David Sampson after this. Tony, please give me the stats that Ted Williams had around being a fighter pilot, the stats that he had before and after having to go fly fighter jets in World War II.
So, Dan, in 41 and 42, which are the years right before the war, he had 37 home runs, 135 hits. He batted .406 in 41.
135 RBI.
Runs. Excuse me. He had 135 runs.
Yeah.
He had 120 RBIs. Batted .406. Dude, he had an incredible season. And then he had another season in 42 of 137 RBIs. Batted .356. His
Chris,
on-base
Chris,
percentage.
why are you laughing?
I don't know.
Tony
my God,
reading stats is like you reading.
Yeah,
just
I
in
don't know.
general.
I didn't know if his
The year he's
confidence was
reading right
leaving.
now. The year he's reading right now is right before he went away to war for 3 years. The big war of 43. Everyone knows about it. And then he came back in 46 and had outstanding numbers.
I love our show mentioning that Ted Williams, pretty good ball player.
Yeah.
Tony, go sit in the penalty box for reading numbers the way that Chris Cody reads words.
You want me to read numbers? There's 837 numbers in this stat line. And you want me to read everything perfect
and reading
poorly. You asked for
Now,
it.
here's the problem. He went to Baseball Reference. You can never go there. It's a rookie mistake. You have to go to ESPN.com. You got to go somewhere else. Reference has too many rows. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just trying to help you out for the future.
David, if Paul Skeens throws a ball, his arm falls off of his body. They hit the ball. His arm hits the warning track, but the ball never does, and it bounces over the wall. Is it a home run or a ground rule double?
Or an out because it's still attached to a defender's hand and was flying.
It's a home run. because the
That's what I
ball
think,
never
too.
hits the ground.
Yeah.
But it never left his hand.
It never
David.
left
It's a
his
balk.
hand.
But it doesn't matter. The ball, the arm becomes an extension of the ball.
Right.
Well, then it would be a ground rule double if it's an
No,
extension
but
of the
it
ball.
doesn't. Oh, hold on.
Yes. Think about
love
it.
where your
Think
head's
about
at.
it. Don't be so
That's
quick.
when you think you
okay?
have the answers. Billy changes the
I am
question.
okay to be wrong, and I love that. It is the ground rule double because the arm and the ball become the same thing. Billy nailed it.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that arm is part of the ball is a thing in this sport.
Luckily.
But I think you guys have a flawed premise on this.
Well, there's lack of foresight on a scenario where this could happen.
There are a number of things that I want to talk to David Sampson about.
I'm sorry, Dan. Are you saying that Paul Skeens, because he throws so hard that his arm will just come off and then someone will hit the arm and it'll go all the way to the warning track?
That's right.
Like an arm that's,
That's
that's
right.
attached?
We were
Well-
talking about Dave Dravecki. Yes. That's
We were also worried if you hit the hand instead of the ball, then does it become the rare pitcher's interference?
Yeah, that too. That too.
Hadn't considered that.
I hadn't considered much of this. We didn't know whether it would just be a balk and the whole play would be nullified. Do you have any more questions about this ground shaking Rashada thing?
I do. David, look, the University of Florida not getting the results that they want from this head coach. Say you're a disappointed UF administrator. Are you seeing this lawsuit, and while you publicly have to defend your head coach, you got this in your back pocket and you're checking with legal to see if you could maybe get out from this contract with cause?
Because you think that part of his contract would be for cause that he can't make a misrepresentation to a player.
I don't know what to think because I've never been encountered with this scenario. So I'm asking you, with your legal background, and if they're not particularly happy with Billy Napier, is there an avenue here for the University of Florida to explore possibly firing Billy Napier with cause, maybe down the line, maybe after they lose the first 2 games of the season? I don't know.
They're still fighting with Gruden, right? So cause is such a major thing. To prove cause, there are provisions in every contract that you sign, how you get terminated for cause, and being sued is not one of them, because anybody can be sued at any time. Man, I would have been fired 50 times for cause if it's just about being sued. And so then the question is, what was he sued for, and what's the result of the lawsuit? If he makes material misrepresentations or somehow shows the university in bad light, not by losing games, that's a provision that's often there, that you can't sully your employer and that you can be terminated for cause. So if you guys at Meadowlark would say things on the air about DraftKings or about Skipper or Dan, that it's possible you would violate your contracts. But in the case of the coach of Florida, this is a lawsuit really about a contract and a broken promise. And we're going to find out exactly what was promised, what was written. And my guess is Florida is going to want to settle this, and they're not going to really want any discovery at all.
But if you're AD and this guy's not giving you the results, do you just say we're firing him with cause eventually down the line?
It's
and
not
just
worth it, Mike.
Just to kick that can down the road because more money's going to pump in anyways. Like, at least I don't have to pay this right now. We saw with Al Golden, he was fighting over contract money, and that took several years. So does it just behoove you? And I've said behoove a lot. I know that. Does it behoove you to just kick the can down the road and say cause and just move on?
It's always a strategy that you think about, because you can fire someone for cause. But if you're a smart person doing a contract as an employee, when you are terminated for cause, you have payments that can continue until it is proven that cause actually existed. And so obviously I don't know what's in the head coach's contract, but what I would do as an AD, if you want to get rid of your coach, you just go find a booster to finance it. And then you go to the president of the university and say, hey, we're firing the coach. We're going to owe him X dollars. We're going to fight for it, but we've already raised the X dollars from a booster. That's what I would do. It would not be about this lawsuit, though. It would be about performance or something else.
What did you make of the NFL choosing the Jets in prime time so much?
I just was surprised the way they said it publicly, which is, you owed us, Aaron. You really screwed us last year with 4 snaps and an injury, and we had to show that crap all season, that we're going to do it again. Really, he is the story of the NFL in his mind, and somehow the NFL still believes that people care about Aaron Rodgers. And what shocks me is that I don't think they do. And it's not just about politics. It's not about the way he meets the media or what he says. It's none of that. It's really about performance and whether or not you think that the Jets are primetime worthy. And I just don't know that Aaron Rodgers at 40 is a match for that. And if I'm the NFL, I'm certainly not saying, hey, it's a make good for last year's injury. I just found that to be bizarre.
Why? I thought it was refreshing. It was honest. They were like, hey, you burned us last year. You owe us this year. And I do think that's the intrigue, David. That's why people will watch. They want to see if Rodgers can stay healthy. And if he does, can he lead the Jets, a perennial loser? Can he lead them to the playoffs this year?
I just don't think you ever throw good money after bad. It's a terrible business principle. When you made a mistake, you don't double down on it. You don't invest more into a mistake thinking it'll turn it around when the underlying principles remain the same, which is what caused the mistake. And Aaron Rodgers getting hurt is probable. Aaron Rodgers not performing at the old Aaron Rodgers level is likely, if not probable. So I think it's a very important lesson about throwing good money after bad.
All right, year back from the war, 1946. He has 176 hits. He has why are you coming over here?
I'm trying to help.
He batted 342. Okay.
No.
And then, of course, won the MVP.
37.
Can you look at what Dottie Hinson did in between those errors?
But you don't read the right stats when you keep giving
MVP
us
is the
number
right
of,
stat.
of
I mean,
number of hits though. I don't
Tell him how many
understand.
HBPs he had.
He had 12 or
12 H-
two hit by pitches.
No, that's SHs. He had 12. HBPs.
What if instead of the ball rolling out of Dottie's hand, her arm just comes off?
You see, it's the train moves and not the station.
That's a good question by Mike. She holds on to the ball, but the arm pops off.
Dan, before the war of 43, his OPS was 1147. When he got back from the war, his OPS was 1164.
I think it's still a
We
drop.
good?
The War of 43.
He had 343 TBs.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, I'm sending another voice note to Boog.
Right.
Total
war,
bases.
that's a stat. He went to war. I mean,
Yeah, what was his war? It was 2.
It was
Right.
he had
3 years.
He had World War II.
It was number 2.
And it's just general war. Yeah, what was his war? 2.
WW2. Back-to-back
pilot.
champs, by the way.
All right.
highest ever.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. What would you be prouder of? Winning the Triple Crown or winning the war? What do you think Ted Williams was prouder of? Scarlett Johansson, David, her fight against artificial intelligence is super interesting. What do you find interesting about it?
Oh, this is a big topic. I'm appreciating that you brought this up. Can you imagine someone, and this is for you, Dan, takes your voice, takes your show, takes your own personal IP, and uses it to make themselves money but not pay you?
That's what Stugotz does all the time.
So I love where your head's at. So imagine your frustration with Stugotz, and he's actually there in person. Imagine if what he did in terms of mailing it in is he not only didn't show up, but only he had a computer-generated voice that showed up that sounded like him, but he still wanted to get paid the same amount of money. Yeah. What do you think of that?
This all sounds like the merch store. I mean,
It sounds like the future negotiations with Stugotz is what it sounds like. As soon as he figures out how someone to teach him how to use artificial intelligence.
So here's what happened with Scarlett Johansson. There was a great movie called Her with Joaquin Phoenix, and it was ahead of its time from 2013. And she played an artificial intelligence voice that Joaquin Phoenix got into a relationship with, sort of like Lars and the Real Girl, except it's not a blow-up doll. And so OpenGPT, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they came up with this amazing system with a voice, and they wanted Scarlett Johansson to be the voice. She said, you know what? I'll pass. They said, no problem. And they released it. And it sounds just like Scarlett Johansson. And it's not, but it sounds like her. So she's suing, saying, you took my voice when I didn't give you permission. And this is what the strikes were about last year in Hollywood. It was AI was a huge part of it, because if you can pay AI, which is a fraction of the cost, if you can get Scarlett for nothing, you get Scarlett for nothing. And that's extremely scary to everyone out in Hollywood. So she is suing almost on behalf of everybody. And keep in mind, she's the same one who sued based on movies not being released on the screen, going right to streamers. She wanted to get paid money because she owned a gross percentage of a film that was grossing fewer dollars because it was going streaming and the money was not being credited properly. So Scarlett is sort of the fighter for all people.
We're out of time, unfortunately, David. We don't have time to review a movie this week because we hogged all your time talking about other things, but I will tell the people that they should check out Nothing Personal. Every day, he is there for you at 8 a.m. Eastern Time doing a live show that is unlike any I've heard anyone doing individually anywhere. He works a lot harder than Stugotz, even though Stugotz finds that laughable. He is not artificial intelligence. As soon as Stugotz figures out how to get a robot to make artificial stupidity, when we figure that part out, he's going to get so rich.
And he's going to want to raise.
What up? It's Mike Ryan, and today we're bringing you some classic Ice Ice Baby. That's right. Vanilla Ice is our throwback interview today from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz.
Vanilla Ice with us. I'm wondering here, you were a sports fan in your heyday. You wore Hurricane jackets. Did you have any contact with the Hurricane program, Vanilla?
Oh, yeah, man. I got all kinds of free swag. How you guys doing over there?
Good. Thank you for being on with us. I'm just wondering if you were like a booster, though, if you like gave guys money, if Vanilla Ice was somebody like Luther Campbell who was giving players money.
I wasn't giving any money away. That's how I held on to it. I don't know how Luke's doing, but...
What is the greatest sports-related perk Vanilla Ice has ever gotten?
Oh, man, I get all kinds of free swag, but that's about the end of it. Maybe some courtside tickets, simple stuff like that.
Do you have enough? I'm thinking that you might here. Do you have enough celebrity where if you wanted to call the Heat, if you wanted to go to the Game 3 Sunday night at the American Airlines Arena, could you or one of your people call the Heat and get courtside seats?
I'm sure something could be arranged, That's the way it goes. You get perks. But they also, it helps out, when we show up and people show up watching it, it helps out everything. It's like, wow, Justin Bieber's there, because I saw him at one of the Heat games. And my kids automatically said, I want to go to a Heat game, Dad. And I got girls. And I'm like, what? You don't really want to go there, do you? They go, yeah, we do. Justin Bieber was there. We want to go now.
I don't understand, Vanilla, how you ended up in Wellington. That's a strange place. I mean, the party lifestyle that you were leading, you were at the top of hip hop, and now you live in Wellington. What the hell?
Hell yeah, it's a great city, brother. Listen, man, I grew up right there in Miami, and wrote a song about it. A1A Beachfront Avenue, we all know it. And I still got love for Miami. Always have, always will. But I got a family now, and it seems like I kind of got invaded by the tourists, and the crowd changes every week. So, you get that home feel up there in Palm Beach, and it's good for family. I've been married 15 years, and I got 2 kids, and the party days are over for me, and I'm proud about it. And, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, so I'm marinating in a new area.
What's the coolest part about being Vanilla Ice?
I guess being right now, man. I'm happy. We are who we are because of who we were, man. And I wouldn't wish my life on my worst enemy to get where I'm at, because it's been, ups and downs. But I'm happier than anything right now. Got good friends, and that's what it's all about, family and friends.
You went through a dark period. Like, you're really happy now. You come off as super, super positive. Yeah. But you went through a horrible period, did you not? When you're saying I wouldn't wish my life on my worst enemy, the worst period was what?
Well, basically, I had a weekend that lasted a few years. You know, I was 16 years old when I wrote Ice Ice Baby, man. I mean, you know, I sold 160 million records, and, you know, it was a whirlwind for me, you know, rock star parties everywhere. But, you know, that's that larger-than-life, unreality world. And then you have this transition where you have to figure out your purpose in life after this humongous, you know, impact. And, you know, that was the transition where it was hard for me, and I didn't know who I was or anything. And you know, you think of Britney Spears; she went through that transition. Remember, she shaved her head, she went crazy doing drugs, and it's wild. I mean, I hate to see what Justin Bieber's going to go through, but you know, it's always entertaining to watch the celebrities crumble, but I think the most entertaining part about me is that you know, how I put it back together, and you know, keep your head on tight, and you know, when the snow globe settles, you got to figure out who you are and what your purpose is, and I found it, and it's family and friends, and that's what motivates me.
Thank you for being on with us, Vanilla Ice. We appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Anytime, guys. Go Heat.
All right, man. Thanks.
Forgive me, please, if I sound too surprised by what I'm about to say, but I really don't have a reference point in my lifetime living in South Florida for what I'm about to say. Reading the betting odds in hockey and seeing that the Florida Panthers are a betting favorite that make the Rangers the worst bet among the 4 teams remaining because they're playing the Florida Panthers. So it's not just that the Panthers are the favorite to win the Stanley Cup where the money is. It's that the Rangers are plus 400 when Dallas is plus 260 and Edmonton is plus 280 because everybody's on Dallas and Edmonton like, well, I don't know. That could go any old way. But the Panthers are going to beat the Rangers. The Rangers are plus 400 when they led the regular season in points is just such a tribute to the money saying, no, the way the Panthers play is what wins this time of year. It's not just that they have 3 players who are playing out of their mind as well as anybody, but it's also that they can take the team that's got the most regular season points and make them someone that it's going to cost you to bet on them, when at very few times in my life have I seen a team that has the point total as the Rangers having these kinds of betting odds because people are saying that team's not winning the title.
But that President's Cup, Dan, we know this is a curse. It is.
But that's not the way the betting money goes.
But people have won. I will say
curses.
I will say in terms of predictive analysis, like what you're doing is to lift the cup. When it comes to this series, the Florida Panthers, last I checked, were between minus 140 and minus 150. The odds makers are treating this series like it's a close series. What you're seeing with to lift the cup prices is the books are telling you if Florida gets into the final, they're favored to win it, whereas it's a tougher road for the Rangers to beat whoever comes out west. I'm just looking specifically. I'm not looking ahead. I think this is a very good series.
It's a great series.
I'm so scared.
It's a scary proposition when you
Feels
go up
great.
against Igor Shesterkin in a top 6 the way that New York has, and they got guys coming back to help out their bottom 6, and they have 6 defenders that are all pretty good. Look, they won the President's Trophy. They're a great
But
team.
you understand what I'm saying, how crazy it is. I don't understand how crazy this must make Canada. Just
Dude.
the idea that this is allowed to happen.
Dude, I've in looking at, because I do the thing that I kind of warn against, looking at odds as predictive analysis. I've been pinching myself since the Panthers went on that holiday run and started rounding into form. They were the odds-on favorite to win the Cup. There was a brief period where Carolina overtook them. I'm surprised the Rangers are here, even though the Rangers are the President's Trophy winning side, because I thought Carolina was going to win that. And even when they made it 3-2 in that series, I thought Carolina was going to win Game 6 and find a way to overcome a 3-0 deficit. I think New York they started the postseason 7-0. If you look historically, the teams that start 7-0 in the postseason in that sport, they make it to the Stanley Cup final, generally, often winning it. So it's a great matchup. I don't know who wins tonight. I think the Panthers win the series. I'm hoping the Panthers win the series. I won't be surprised at all if the Rangers
Let
win
me
it.
ask you and Chris, though, because I have at every point articulated fear of hockey just being hockey. And I was respecting the franchises that they played in the first and second round. And now they face a monster franchise. You're going to have to win road games in a very tough place to play.
The Mecca.
When I ask you what you've been or are going to be the most afraid of in any of this, because you've mentioned Carolina a few times now, when I throw Edmonton in front of you and Dallas in front of you, like, does this represent the greatest fear for you guys? Because you guys haven't articulated anything in the way of fear until now, and I have feared just about everything.
Carolina, for me, was the team I was afraid of. It didn't really make sense, even though because the Rangers were kind of better this season. Carolina was that, like, they've been the boogeyman for the Panthers, other than the sweep last in the
But it
playoffs.
wasn't a sweep, if you ask Brendan
Right.
Moore.
But it's just that. So, honestly, I kind of wanted the Rangers, but their power play is so scary right now.
I wanted the Rangers too, but I do think that you can look back at the previous series against Tampa and maybe hope that could be some kind of indicator as to how this series goes. I don't want to look ahead. Again, I'm nervous about this series. I think it's tight. The price reflects that. But if they get into a Stanley Cup final against the Dallas Stars, Dallas is the team. Vegas too, who Dallas went to 7 with in the first round. Where I look at that team and I say that team's probably deeper than Florida, and I don't say that often. Even as much as I respect this New York Ranger team, I think the edge in lines 3 and 4 go to Florida.
Mike, this postseason has been interesting. Dan mentioned hockey, anything can happen, but really chalk has won out here. You have 3 of the 4 best teams in the league still remaining.
Yeah, been very surprising that there was just one Game 7 in the last round. That's typically not how that goes. Even though playoff hockey is outstanding, we finally started getting some good games. I think it's probably a down year. Look, as much as I say the NBA postseason isn't my cup of tea, there have been upsets there, and now they're starting to get good games. Ice hockey had some good games here in the postseason, but it hasn't. Hockey playoffs are great, and this has been so great that we haven't really analyzed that. If you compare it to previous years, probably a weaker one.
Yeah.
I don't need good games, but I do need close games. Seeing a basketball game go into overtime last night with stakes, and you're breathing a little heavier because you know that what you're watching can echo. It's something that you can remember. Stugotz has a top 5 list for us of. I'm a little confused by it because he's purloined it from Taylor. I don't know how he got it.
Right.
I think it's stolen. I don't think Taylor wants this scene.
Oh, he doesn't, but somehow I got my hands on it. I mean,
and it's a top 5 list because Jaylen Brown last night, that can be something that people remember for a long time in Boston. Or it can be a nothing. I remind you that just last year, Derek White made a buzzer beater to make a series that went from 3-0 to 3-3, and no one remembers that because they lost in Boston in Game 7.
You have to finish it off.
You have to finish it. It's weird to say about sports. There are all sorts of moments that seem huge at the time that then get forgotten. So are these the top 5? What have you procured, purloined from Taylor?
Taylor's personal top 5 sports moments that didn't result in anything. It's the lamest top 5 of all time.
It's a good top 5.
I really like that.
Well, I think it's his top 5 moments, and it just happened that they didn't amount to anything. Like, he didn't write this for that.
Right. He's had bad moments. I mean, he hasn't had really, really great moments throughout his life.
So it's the top 5 sports moments for a loser.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, for Taylor.
Tomato.
Well, it's tailor-made
Yes.
loser.
Yes.
He's a tailor-made loser.
Well, we have to hear the list first.
He just
I
hasn't
think.
won.
Well, the way you've explained, okay. But what?
I've got a number 1. That it better be on this list. Otherwise, you can just throw it out.
It's his list.
I've got a number 1 from one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time that better be in there. I'm just saying.
Is it specific to Taylor,
Yes,
though?
this is specific to
Oh,
Taylor.
well,
that
and his
seems to
experiences
be the
as a sport
theme.
fan.
Well, he's not a New England Patriots fan, but Jermaine Kearse made an unbelievable grab.
freak.
Oh, I remember that.
Unbelievable grab.
That's not the freak.
That's Javon Kearse.
Ron Curse.
I think that I really want this list to have Mike Ryan's top 1 on it, but I will put to Juju at Le Batard Show. Are you surprised in any way that Mike Ryan knows his list is better than your list on whatever it is?
This is a lame list, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about coming up with my own.
There's a good list
It's
here.
great. Yeah,
it's
there's so
encouraging
many
everybody
moments
to
that
come
get
up with their
forgotten.
own.
You're right.
Do you have any OLI? Or
I do, yeah.
All right, OLI.
Quentin Grimes clutch steal on one leg against Jimmy Butler.
These are all going to be totally forgotten. Any more OLI?
Trading for Tim Tebow. It would be on mine.
What a sad life he's had.
This was the Jets trading. I didn't know
Yes.
he was a Jets fan.
He
okay.
is, yeah. Number 5, Aaron Rodgers running out of the tunnel. It's a great one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Number 4, Linsanity. Number 3, Bart Scott saying, "Can't wait." Such a good one. Coming around on
They're
this.
just sort of gassy New York moments. It's sort of like the city of New York putting a hand to its chest with indigestion and then just epically farting. Number 2.
That third quarter run in Game 7 led by Dante DiVincenzo.
He hit that 3 to cut it to 6.
was amazing.
New York was electric.
Wait a second, we got something here.
They cut it to 6. They were down 20. They were so close. Number 1.
Marcus Page's game-tying shot in the national championship before Chris Jenkins won on a buzzer beater seconds later. The shot before the shot, Dan.
That would have been a better sounder than the fanfare for Taylor's top 5.
It's a good list.
It's a
Dan.
good list. It's a good concept.
Mike, does it have your nominee on it or not?
It's Jermaine Kearse making that catch in the Super Bowl.
The freak.
It was a juggling catch with a minute left in the Super Bowl, and it set up the eventual play. I think it happened like maybe 2 plays later. The interception at the goal line. New England wins the Super Bowl. That's a play that gets remembered. But if you've forgotten, and you probably have, this Jermaine Kearse catch in a huge moment for the Seattle Seahawks, go ahead and watch it. Unreal. Also, Ron Tugnut had an unbelievable performance one time. I think 70 saves.
What?
These things get forgotten when you lose. History erases them very quickly because this was before. What did Edelman go crazy after that and have a ridiculous catch?
Edelman had the ridiculous catch against Atlanta. Yeah, the play that's remembered from that Super Bowl that Kearse made that unreal catch and was obviously not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch, and then Malcolm Butler gets the interception.
The last few minutes of that national championship game, though, that have the top spot or close to the top spot there, it's cruel to have your great moment that quickly erased. To be just and also erased.
If you're Marcus Page,
yes. Or if Jermaine Kearse is talked about like David Tyree, I think, if they go on to win that game.
Shouldn't the epic fart that was motivational in Game 5 also be on this list where they cut the tension in the room and everyone saluted the Knicks for being loose, and then that just led to diarrhea all over the end of the season?
Do we remember the Ray Allen Game 6 winner? If in Game 7, remember Game 7 was a very good game. Tim Duncan misses the bunny.
The bunny.
If the Spurs win that series in 7, we don't reflect upon the Ray Allen shot the same way.
That is correct. We probably don't remember the chase down block on Iguodala if Kyrie doesn't make that shot. That's the way that works. Mike has a good nominee here, Stugotz, from your Mets that I'd totally forgotten about. He just said a name during the break that I basically just associate with one play.
Yes.
I don't have
one play Hall of Fame.
I don't have any other
build that out.
information. No, he's been wanting to for a couple of days.
Tyree's definitely in it.
He's been wanting to keep building out the one play Hall of Fame, but the left fielder for the Mets, Andy Chavez.
Yes.
Yeah. In a losing effort in the NLCS, the St. Louis Cardinals ended up winning that, but an unreal catch that resulted in a double play because no one could believe that he made that catch.
Well, he was standing on the left field wall, was he not? Basically, I saw one time footage from Japan of a guy. It was like the movie either Major League 1
I was
or
wondering.
2.
I was wondering if you were doing Major League 2.
No, the Asian guy in Major League was also standing.
He stood at the very top of it.
But he was stealing that from an act. Look it up. We'll be able to find this. We will be able to find on the internet.
I got it. I'm sorry. I got it.
You got it, Stugotz. We're busy doing something. You got it. You don't know how to turn on your computer. You don't know how to turn it off. You don't know how to turn on the volume. You don't know how to turn it off.
I said I apologize. What you don't do is just shut it down.
That's what you did last time because you couldn't figure out how to turn off the volume on your computer. Can you guys get for me in video, please? There's a catch in Japan of a guy just standing on the left field wall. But Chavez isn't standing on the left field wall, but it's pretty close.
It's an unreal catch, and I think it's in that class of just iconic, you would think, game-changing moments, but it ended up happening overall in a losing effort because the Cardinals go on to lose that series, to win that series. And then in the World Series, I believe the Texas Rangers were one strike away from a championship in Game 6. Then Freese hits the home run. Was it Freese that hits the home run? And then the St. Louis Cardinals end up winning that World Series. I was a baseball guy at one.
It was a long time ago.
At one point.
At one point. Yeah. 1 point. Oh, I'm seeing this catch right now.
There's a couple I'm seeing where in Japan people scaling walls. I don't know if it's the one you're talking about.
It's absurd.
You can just keep playing an assortment of great highlights of people stealing home runs. I believe that is the greatest feeling that sport can produce, that ball being in your glove. I believe it feels better than even making epic contact at the end of a game. To end a game...
Man, Pudge looked like he had the feeling. Because that was like machismo. Oh, yeah, I took your best shot. I got the bleeping ball.
You're saying that's a better feeling than Aaron Boone had when he hit a walk-off home run for the Yanks?
I'm saying if you can end a game by robbing a home run, having it in your glove, and you're the only one who knows it, I think that feeling is better than the feeling of it hitting your bat and you know before anyone in the stadium that you have the correct contact because of how it feels, how you've connected.
I don't know. When Pedro threw Don Zimmer, I think that was a pretty good feeling, too.
Yeah.
And you just get him and just get out of here.
That was more of just to, like, let his weight keep going.
It's an old guy.
It was like an Olay.
He had it coming.
Yeah, but you feel good about that one.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Did Don Zimmer have it coming? I don't believe this show's stance on Don Zimmer, an old person charging Pedro, and Pedro throwing. How old was Don Zimmer? He was over 80.
Old enough to know better.
He's been over 80 since, for 30 years.
Put it on the poll. Has Don Zimmer been over 80 since emerging from the embryonic fluid?
I think I got the all-time, this is top of the ballot moment that came in an overall losing effort. They did win that game, but they lost the series in quick fashion. AI stepping over Lou. Yeah, like that, they won that game to everyone's shock and surprise, and then they promptly got gentlemen swept.
They lost in 5.
Don Zimmer was 72 at the time. He passed away at 83.
No way he was 72.
He was.
Well, he was 80 since the womb, as Stugotz has already established.
He was an old
I don't understand how it is that he could be 72.
Kobe have a huge game-winning shot against the Detroit Pistons in the finals, but they lost in 5 as well. And that season was talked about as an embarrassment.
That is correct.
Looking at that replay, he does kind of grab the top of his head. And I remembered it more as Pedro just kind of letting him go.
No.
He does kind of grab his head and give him a toss.
It was mixed martial arts expertise of using his momentum.
He grabbed his ears and threw him down.
It's less momentum than I remember, though. It's more ear grabbing.
It is.
It's not a great look for Pedro.
He has a lot of head.
Yes.
He does. Yeah.
That is a lot of old head. And he
does a belly flop on the grass.
I think David Ortiz afterwards is like, oh, he just has a guttural reaction to it. Like, oh shit. Look right. Oh, he puts his arms out.
I mean, that can be a disaster. If someone of that age falls that way, they can break their hip.
That's usually the start of it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been, and we can laugh about it now, but that could have been something that was super disastrous where Don Zimmer dies 7 months later because that's usually the start of it.
But what if Don Zimmer killed Pedro?
Ooh.
Well, that doesn't seem to be one of the options given the footage that we're presently watching. Beat him to death with...
Pedro's arms flew off his body and stayed on the ears of Don Zimmer.
Beat him to death with the arm of John Smiley.
Kylian Mbappe putting France on his shoulders to tie a game that looked over in one of the all-time championship performances ever, only to lose to Argentina. Man, that game was a fever dream.
I want to talk, Stugotz, about something that happened last night at the Emmys, because I don't know if you guys saw, but Greg Olson won Outstanding Personality and Event Analyst. and is going to have to take a $7 million a year pay cut because he's going to the second team now and Tom Brady is taking his job. I'm guessing that has never happened in the history of the Emmys. Not the Tom Brady part, obviously.
Sports Emmys.
That hasn't happened. Yeah, the sports Emmys. Thank you. Greg Olsen going from outstanding personality and event analyst to also you're going to have to take a demotion and a $7 million a year pay cut.
And Tom Brady's going to ask you for advice because Tom Brady is asking him for advice. I mean, this Brady guy taking his job, forcing him to take less. He takes a demotion. He's great at what he does. And Brady has the audacity to ask Greg Olsen, hey, how do I do this? Unbelievable.
Is it audacity?
Yes.
Tom Brady was famously helpful to teammates. You think that Greg, if you were Greg Olsen, you wouldn't pick up his calls, you wouldn't give advice, you wouldn't help?
Oh, I'm not certain what I would do, but I mean, just the stones on Brady to call Greg Olsen and say, hey, how do I do this? I've never done it before. You were great. I'm taking your job.
You should give him bad advice.
Yeah.
Like things not to do.
Curse.
When he starts talking, talk over him. It kills.
T.O. could have been the Willis Reed
of
our generation.
Playing on a broken leg in the Super Bowl?
Totally changed the entire reputation of his because of that performance in a Super Bowl, but Donovan McNabb was puking on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
I couldn't believe that Terrell Owens made it back for that Super Bowl. I believe he missed the previous two games with a broken leg.
What do you think they shot him up with?
The same stuff they gave Anunoby over the weekend. Just huge. I mean, he couldn't see straight.
We agree it's not the same thing.
He looked drowsy.
His right pupil was looking at his inner ear.
It's when I knew the next season was done. I mean, seriously. There was no need for that.
He couldn't feel human emotion.
When they were so desperate to put him out there?
When they went for another
4 minutes.
Willis Reed moment because Tom Thibodeau was telling you, this is what I need because my team's not good enough.
That's correct.
Don't forget that ab strain by Josh Hart.
The only way the Knicks could be good enough, it's like the concerts that Stugotz goes to, is if you're on copious drugs.
I don't think that's true.
Thank you, Mike.
I don't think it's true.
Yeah.
It might be true for jam bands. I've tried. I don't get it. Maybe I need to do drugs. Again, I don't do drugs. Edible gummy here or there, but I don't do drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But that venue that Stugotz was at is probably the only way I'd enjoy a jam band. And they're the greatest of all time, Dead and Company. Grateful Dead, really.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine, since that's your favorite band, by a pretty wide margin, the type of weekend that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to try to describe it right now. Dan, you've never been to the Sphere, right?
I'm sure it's amazing. I've not heard anything other than people be amazed by everything happening at the Sphere.
You know, it was interesting for me because I started out in the 200 section, like the 200 level, and I found myself, because I'm there for the music. Like, I love that band. It's the only band that I love. But the visuals were so amazing. The show was so amazing. I found myself spending more time looking at the visuals than I did listening to the actual music. And so I decided after 4 or 5 songs, I want a concert. I want to focus on the music. I'm on shrooms. I want to focus on something. It's hard to focus when you're doing it. So I went down to GA. I went down to the floor, and then it started to feel like a concert. Visual still great, but felt more like a concert.
I can't imagine how people were tripping there. Dan,
they were afraid to stand up, Mike.
I was going to say, when you're on drugs, isn't it designed more steep than other theaters? Like, I'd imagine it's scary to stand on mushrooms.
So there were 2 friends sitting right next to me in the seats. They were standing at the beginning of the first show I went to on Friday night, and one friend had to sit down. And he was like, he goes, yo, man, I got to sit down. And his other friend goes to him, looks at him and says, man, I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to be the first.
We've all been there.
Then I looked over at both of them and said, you guys okay? They're like, we'll be okay.
I went to the Sphere when we were doing our Super Bowl thing. I saw U2 there. I'm not a big U2 guy, but everyone here has been to the Grand Canyon?
I haven't.
No. The best way that I can describe it is you can see all the pictures on the internet of the Grand Canyon. You can hear all the firsthand accounts of the Grand Canyon, but until you're there and there's nothing blocking you from experiencing it, it's unlike anything that you've seen in this country. There's no real way to articulate it. And I think that venue is up there. Like, you can see all the cool venues. They look cool when you're scrolling through IG and TikTok, but until you're there and you see the enormity, keep in mind the Sphere is designed to make it look even bigger than it actually is through depth perception tricks and whatnot. It's just unbelievable. It is single-handedly, you could already put it up there. It doesn't have the legacy of like Radio City and all these other places, but that is the greatest venue I've ever been in.
So I was in Vegas. I just missed Stugotz. Stu was there the weekend. I was there during the week. And anytime you look at the Strip, you see the Sphere. We did like the big eye Ferris wheel or whatever, and you look over the Sphere, and it is just enormous, but it's so clear. Like the screens on the outside are so clear that the graphics that are floating around it are like, if you're looking at it on your phone, like right next to you. I don't know what technology they have there, but it's incredible.
Yeah, people think that what's going on outside is like the same. That's just an entirely different monitor. And we have the NHL draft that's going to be randomly, very randomly, the first sporting event there.
I love that.
I'm going to watch the NHL draft, not really knowing much about the prospects, although I hear it's a good class. But UFC, Dana White has gone on record saying he may be hyping this thing up, but he says it's going to be one and done. That the type of show that they have to produce to make it, because you have to reformat everything. You have to essentially build a brand new graphics package for the screen like this. He's like, it is so cost prohibitive that people are going to say they want to do events at the Sphere, but you're going to quickly realize that it's impossible to actually do this. He's doing this. He knows it's going to be a loss. He just wants to have this event at the Sphere to have that as part of UFC's legacy. He says it's going to be one and done.
O'Malley's going to be the fight. It's going to be O'Malley versus Merab, so a championship fight. But he's like this. For me, Stu, you've been inside. Mike, you've been inside. When you're talking about having a boxing match, a UFC fight, anything where the fighters are now in the screen, basically, like you look at one part of the octagon or the boxing ring, like the screen is going to be behind.
It's like Tron. You know when like they have these like big face-offs in Tron, and you have like millions of people in the background going crazy, and the fight is just projected on that thing. If that's what they're going to do, if they're actually going to project the fight to scale, it's going to see.
They have to. Like you can't use the Sphere and not do something like that.
It's something that we
pointless.
can't comprehend. And if you want to comprehend it, may I suggest downloading the Game Time app?
Wow.
Download the Game Time app. Create a brand new account. Get $20 off.
Wow.
Chris, are we going to New York?
I'll be there.
We're going to New York.
We're going.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mecca.
Well, we better start looking at that Game Time app and seeing what our seats might look like at the New York Rangers and Madison Square Garden. Historically expensive prices over there.
I'm going
but
back
you
to
get a low
Vegas.
price guarantees it just in case you find it cheaper anywhere else.
You're going tonight?
You will no, we're going for game 2.
Oh.
So you get to match that and more. You get stellar customer service from the fine folks over at Game Time. And again, if you're creating a brand new account, you get $20 off with the promo code DAN. DAN. Thank you to Game Time for all of their tremendous support.
Since you brought up fighting and since Tony is here, there are a couple of things that I wanted to ask Tony about. One is the return of the mouthy Conor McGregor. Can you guys tell me when's the last time he won? Because he is still an enormous draw. Because of his past and because of his mouth, but he is not any longer one of the best fighters in mixed martial arts. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to Tony about is because McGregor is they have sold more than they've ever sold.
This is going to be the biggest gate and the biggest pay-per-view draw probably of all time.
Because of
you have an answer, by the way, 2020.
2020
right?
beat Cowboy Cerrone at UFC 246.
Because of his star power, and no matter who the fighter has been in mixed martial arts, they have not created a bigger star than Conor McGregor. But if he's not washed, he is not in any realm what he used to be, and his life has seemed kind of out of control in a way that makes it really difficult to get into optimal shape because of the recklessness and the distractions and the drinking and the potential crime. Like, there's just been a bunch of shit around him. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you're an expert at corruption, the best we've got around here who isn't Stugotz.
Thank you.
The Fury-Usyk fight had $120 million lost because 20 million people are estimated to have streamed it illegally. So I don't know how they do the tabulations on this. I know that Dana White is chasing around a single hacker thinking that that is the person who is stealing his money. But the idea that 20 million people would be able to get something for free that would cost the people doing the business $120 million worth of business, I think that's happening in just Hialeah. I believe that Tony was raised by a whole bunch of resourceful Cuban people who know exactly how to do this. In my childhood is filled with Cubans who knew how to execute this particular thing of stealing something that wasn't theirs.
Stealing
is a loaded
That's
term.
a dirty word.
Yeah.
If anyone's stealing, it's the UFC from the fighters. Am I right?
Well, this is yes, but this is
Well
boxing. But Dan,
I'd say the illegal streamers are the Robin Hoods of this story.
there are some that are Robin Hoods that obviously don't want people to have to pay $79, $89, $99, $120 or whatever it ends up being. But Dan, when you look at the streamers, hey, we've all been there. We've all done that. Like, am I going to pay $90 to watch Usyk and Fury? Probably not. But I know a guy who's got a jailbroken, little something or other.
So you're talking about Tony.
What is that? A jailbroken what?
I don't
Tony,
think you can VPN
what's been going on with
speak
you?
into a microphone.
Tony,
bud.
what's
Ted Williams threw him off.
I don't
what's
want
going on with your speech today?
I don't want to say things that are going to incriminate me or people that I know. So
Yeah.
there's a jailbroken Fire Stick that's been going around Miami that somebody that I know possibly could hook you up
in
with.
the passenger seat of Stugotz's car when
in the
he's
Midwest, right?
on
That's right.
gummies.
That's right. So I know somebody. I don't want to incriminate that person or my relationship with that person, but I will say that there are avenues for people to go out and watch fights, watch sporting events that are maybe pay-per-view that you don't have to pay-per-view.
In what world is this not stealing?
I mean,
A rationalized world with no morals?
Yeah,
Like, it's
kind of what we
stealing.
live in right now.
Well, how so?
It's
If you go
stealing.
to a bar and you go to watch Tony's MMA Live or whatever it's called, like live in person and the fight's on, you're not paying for the fight.
right.
So it's free.
That's fair.
No, if it is a fight that is pay-per-view and you have not paid because you're getting it in your house illegally,
Free 99,
because
we like to call it.
it's illegal.
Right.
Well,
The crime
what
is
laws?
is
You're borrowing, Dan.
theft.
Exactly
The
right.
bar pays, Billy. Like
If
the
a
restaurant
person-
that they're at.
Yeah,
pays.
but Tony doesn't. If you're hungry and you steal a loaf of bread, is it stealing?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're hungry.
But you're hungry.
Understood.
You're desperate.
And hunger is the rationalization for the crime.
If you're walking around the beach and you break into Dan Le Batard's car, but you're desperate, is it a crime?
I'll let you get away with it.
Exactly.
But I
so
could
why
prosecute
all of a
you.
sudden,
I could
Big
prosecute.
Daddy Me
but you
over
wouldn't.
here
Right.
against the streamers for
So
some
what do you want to
reason.
do, Dan? You want to persecute and you want to prosecute the people that are trying to just have a good time and
Your
hang out with their
fans.
friends?
They're
exactly.
trying to support your
Exactly
business by
right.
not paying you for your product.
No, I just want to define it as stealing. I neither want to prosecute nor persecute the,
Feels like you do.
the thief.
Sometimes stealing is smart, Dan.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is stealing sometimes smart? And also, is watching a pay-per-view fight without paying for it stealing?
What if you just listen,
Also stealing.
but you're not viewing? It's a pay-per-view.
These are
You're not paying to listen.
These are copyrighted things. People pay for the exclusive rights. F1 is very vigilant about this. When you pay for the exclusive rights, you're paying to have exclusivity, not to have someone not pay for what
Yeah, but they
it
don't
is
do
you've
pay-per-view.
paid
You
for.
I'd
can
like
watch
to
it
pay
on
someone to
whatever.
never hear about F1 again.
I second that.
Pretty big motorsports weekend, Monaco.
It's a giant one, isn't it?
It's the biggest one of all time.
Oh, come on.
It's the biggest one
They
of all
said
time.
that last time.
Get
as
outta
well.
here.
No. This is the biggest one of all time.
Like
You
every
got-
UFC
look, I'm not.
event now, all of a
That's not
sudden.
true.
I'm not a
UFC
Formula
300
One
seats.
guy. I'm not. But it is Monaco, and while the race isn't of a certain quality, I have seen a few Monacos in my day. It's not a great race, but it is the prestigious race in Formula One. And here in the United States, I grew up in a time where the Indianapolis 500 meant something. It made stars out of guys like Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves. So like, it meant something. Like you would go on late night with Letterman if you won the Indianapolis.
Right. No, he's right.
Help me out, guys.
Rick Mears, yes, he's right,
Legacy
yes.
Media over here.
Yes.
Help me out here.
No, you're right.
Kanaan.
It didn't matter how little you. When I was a kid, I thought that there was just that they call it IndyCar. I thought it just had one race its season, that everybody worked to this one race. And when you consider the qualifying process, it seems like it's taken a month all at that track. It's a really big deal. Like I said, the entire sport is named after the Indy 500, and I actually have a tether because I never watch IndyCar, but I've gotten into NASCAR. And with Kyle Larson qualifying inside the top 5, unbelievable. He's aiming to be the only person outside of Tony Stewart to ever lead a lap at both the Indianapolis 500 and then the NASCAR race that follows. This year it's the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte. Only one person in human history has ever led a lap in both races on the same day. Not many people. I don't think a lot of people I think one other person other than Tony Stewart did it. In fact, just finishing both races in the same day is a monumental achievement. So I'm going to be watching the Indianapolis 500 only because of Kyle Larson and his pursuit of this unreal achievement in motorsports. And then the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, God's country. That is NASCAR country. I'm locked into that as always.
Tony, Mike is right. There was a time where the Indy 500 winner, if Gordon Johncock won the Indy 500, he would make the late night circuit.
You drink milk or something, right? And then you go.
Yes.
You got to go around 500 times.
Common misconception: it's 500 miles is the race. It's actually
like
only 200 laps.
200 laps. F1 is 57 laps. Child's play. Honestly, a mockery of racing, but that's neither here nor there.
Also,
you see who's in the pace car for the Indy 500? Another tether for you?
Who?
Ken Griffey Jr. from your M's.
Oh, my M's.
What?
Yeah.
My M's red hot, by the way. A huge comeback win at Yankee Stadium. We don't have to talk about the M's. But the Indianapolis 500, like I mentioned, used to mean something. And this is the first time I've watched it in several years. It's just because a NASCAR driver's in it. By the way, suspensions and fines levied against Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I saw another angle of that fight, and Ricky Stenhouse is literally screaming, "Dad! Dad!" as his dad gets punched in the face by Kyle Busch. And then Ricky Stenhouse goes to Kyle Busch and says, "I'm going to wreck you in Charlotte."
Is that the crazy Bush?
No, well, if
Trick
you look,
question. They're both crazy.
they're both, especially if you
crazy.
dig into what happened to Kurt Busch.
I'm gonna wreck you in Charlotte is quite the thing.
It's like
to say.
Talladega Nights. That's something Will Ferrell would
I'm
say.
going to wreck you in Charlotte. And then what Kyle Busch says is, "Bring it. I suck as much as you. This season's a waste."
Let's get the video up here, Stugotz, quickly for Celtics fans leaving last night's game early so that I can revisit Stugotz's Ray Allen experience. Stugotz left the arena to beat the traffic, Game 6. Ray Allen makes one of the most historic shots ever. Stugotz hears the vibrating arena, tries to get back in, but evidently, I don't know if this is a rule everywhere, but in Miami, once you've left the arena, you cannot get back in. They will not allow you in, even if you have a ticket.
That's all
stub.
arenas.
Yeah, it's
I
common.
didn't try to get back in. I knew I was not getting back in. Everyone else tried to get back in, and as they were running past me, I told them, "You're not getting back in. Like,
I
just go
feel
home."
like in retrospect you have no regrets because you definitely beat traffic, which was your objective that day.
Yeah, but I missed one of the great shots of all time. Like, I
You're
missed
fine,
that
though.
moment. Yeah, I was fine. No,
But had
totally
the
fine.
Heat lost
Yeah.
Game 7, it would have been
Yeah.
on Taylor's
I was
list.
sleeping
maybe.
by 10:45. It was good.
You guys have to understand that when he's talking about it, he'll tell people he was there anyway. So he
was there.
he gets
You're the
to-
only guys that know. I
He
mean-
wasn't there for the shot.
was at
I
the
saw
game.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't, and he didn't. He had to. He heard the noise and then was confused. I wish we had video of that, of a startled Stugotz like trying to waddle to his car quicker than everybody, and then wondering where everybody is because he's the only one waddling to his car.
I thought of another all-time moment that happened in a losing effort. Many said it was impossible when the Intimidator broke his collarbone to win the pole at Watkins Glen. He won that pole. Didn't win the race, but he won the pole with a broken collarbone. Raise hell. Praise Dale.
Billy, you said you didn't want to hear any more about racing.
F1, I said.